Sadhvi, would you introduce yourself and let our viewers know what do you do?
My name is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati. I live here at Parmarth Niketan ashram on the banks of the sacred Mother Ganga in the lap of the Himalayas. And I serve. I serve in whatever way the universe needs service in that moment. I do a lot of spiritual teaching, a lot of spiritual discourses, a lot of satsang, questions and answers, a lot of teaching meditation, a lot of counseling, either individually or in a bigger group. I also am very blessed to be an instrument used by the divine in logistic service to the needy. So whether it's free education or women's empowerment programs or schools or healthcare programs or programs for water, sanitation, hygiene. I'm Secretary General of the Global Interfaith WASH Alliance. WASH is water, sanitation, and hygiene. And President of Divine Shakti Foundation. So a lot of different opportunities to serve in the world.
In the midst of your very full schedule, how do you personally use mantra to maintain peace and connection?
I remember when Puja Swamiji first gave me my mantra. So when I came to India, I was 25. I was in the middle of a Ph.D. degree in pediatric neuropsychology. And I came, it's a different story, but I came with a backpack and had a spiritual experience on a level, to a degree, to an extent that I never had imagined, and that transformed my entire life, and that showed me the truth. And all of those components, when we speak about a spiritual awakening due to no merit of our own, but due to grace of the divine. And in the beginning, I heard Puja Swamiji, my guru, Puja Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji, speak a lot about mantra and the power of mantra. And so I decided I wanted a mantra. But he wouldn't give me a mantra. And of course, that plugged all into my, the psychological, what's wrong with me? But the way that the gurus work is they work on their own message from God. And over the years, I've been here now 23 years, and I've seen him give some people mantras within 20 minutes of asking. It's never immediate, but it may be, okay, go and come back. But sometimes as soon as 20 minutes of asking, and sometimes years and years later. So it took me 2 years to finally get a mantra. And when he finally gave me one, it was such an extraordinary experience. And it felt literally, because there's an aspect of the initiation in which the guru actually whispers the mantra into your ear. And it felt to me like he was taking these sacred words, these sacred sounds, and literally placing them in my brain, in my mind, in my psyche, in the very core of who I am. It wasn't a matter of him just speaking something to me. It wasn't a matter of just vibrations of tympanic membrane and what that does in the brain. It wasn't that. It literally felt like he had taken these sacred sounds and was placing them into my very being. And from that moment on, the mantra has really chanted itself almost. It's my life raft. And so if I'm ever in a stressful situation, in a difficult situation, the mantra is what I grab onto. And it's what literally carries me as a life raft from I'm drowning in that moment to, oh, yeah, here I am. And the mantra is in many ways the backdrop or the field upon which the rest of my life exists. And so I have a practice of very deliberate mantra chanting, a practice of japa, where you actually chant mantra on a mala, rosary. But then, even when I'm not doing that, the mantra chants itself. If I close my eyes, the mantra is on.
Beautiful. I love the life jacket
Yeah.
analogy. It's so perfect for exactly what that subtle sound keeps us afloat in ourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know here at the ashram at Parmarth Niketan, every night, 365 days in the year,
Yes.
rain or shine, always, we have what you fondly call the spiritual happy hour.
Yes.
And it's a chanting session with various mantras, and the Shantipat mantras are a big part of that every day, beginning, middle, and end. And I'd like to hear your perception of what that is doing for the people who come and for the world.
Well, the ceremony that you speak about is the Ganga Arti. And we gather together. Typically, Arti is just one particular song, one prayer. But for us, it's an entire experience. And so we gather together. First, we have the Havan ceremony, the Yagna or Homa ceremony. That has its own mantras. We then chant the Hanuman Chalisa. But again, in between, there's the recitation of different mantras, and then the Arti, then more mantras, Sankirtan, then mantras. It impacts the atmosphere, it impacts all of us in a very profound way. You know, as I always mention, sound itself is energy. And if you don't believe that, blow a whistle of a very high frequency and watch it shatter a wine glass across the room. So it is an energetic frequency. It's a power in the world, like light is a power, sound is a power. It's an energy, like gravity. We have all of these different energies in the world, physical energies. We have light, we have sound, we have magnetic pull. And they're all just different ways of the energy of the universe to flow through us, around us, in us, to impact us. And sound is very, very powerful. And the Vedic mantras, it is said, whether you understand the words or not, the power of the chanting itself, the power of the sound itself is so strong that it actually gets in and alchemically changes you. And that's what happens there. So people come every night from all over the world, from every walk of life, from every race, from every religion, from every culture, and everyone's impacted. Doesn't matter what religion people come from. There is a power of connection to the divine through the prayers, through the chanting, through the sound, through the ritual. That regardless of what your connection is, your culture is, that experience connects you. But it also impacts the atmosphere. I mean, the rituals, the havan, the yagna, the arti, the mantras, they don't only impact the one chanting them, they actually impact the world, which makes sense because we are putting sound out into the world. We're putting out that energy, that frequency, that power. And so it's going to impact it. And the impact is incredibly powerful and incredibly positive.
So the next question I'd like to ask is about the Divine Shakti Foundation, which I know is a deep urge from your heart to empower women around the world, but especially in India. So from your experiences working in the field of women's empowerment, what is the role of women in waging peace?
Women have an essential role to play in waging peace. We have an essential role to play in everything of value in the world. And that doesn't mean that men don't have an essential role to play. They also do. But as you ask about women, it's important to realize that the role that women have to play that is so essential is a role that is distinctly feminine. The role is not how can women act like men and therefore simply double the arms forces. That's not the highest role. Yeah, sometimes there may be needed to just as many people as you can have, all hands on deck type of situation. But in a broad way, in a long-term, actually co-creating our present and future situation. The role for women is a role that is distinctly feminine. And the role of the feminine is the role of creation. The role of the feminine is the womb, literally, in which life is created. And so when we speak about creation, when we speak about peace, without which creation can't happen, it requires that nurturing, that nourishing existence. And that's not, it's important to realize that that's not weak. A lot of times in our, you had asked about the Divine Shakti Foundation and the work with women. A lot of times in the feminist movement, this idea of empowering women, it's about women getting power from the outside or women somehow becoming like men and therefore more powerful. And it has nothing to do with that. It has to do actually with women tapping in to who they are, to the power within them, which is a power of creation, a power of nurturing. It doesn't matter whether you ever actually pop a baby out of your own womb or not. It's utterly irrelevant. I mean, if you do, that's one way of creating and one way of nourishing and nurturing, but that is far from the beginning and end of the role of creation and nurturing that women are called upon to do in the world. And it's an incredible disservice to relegate women's roles only to doing that. If that's a choice that women make, God bless them. But the idea that somehow the beginning and end of what we are called upon to do is create a physical life one at a time in our womb and then nourish and nurture that, it's a fallacy. And it's a fallacy that tragically keeps women from even beginning to think about what might be their creation. what might be that which they're nourishing and nurturing. And again, the other end of that fallacy is it has to be something unheard of, brand new, fantastic, glamorous, huge, sensational, earth-shattering, never done before. It may simply be a garden. It may simply be a rose bush. It may simply be the stray cat and her kittens who come to take milk at your door. It may simply be a group of school children who come to learn to read after school because that's what you do. Run a free open house of kids. Give them cookies and milk along with teaching them to read. So it's not always earth-shattering. It's not always something that the world knows about and that puts you on some kind of a pedestal. And that's also really important because that's really it's the masculine model. It's the model of has to be higher, bigger, more. And yeah, sometimes we'll create something that the world says, wow, wow, wow. It happens. Great. But there's no rule that that's what a creation has to be, that that's what counts as effective, successful, nourishing or nurturing. Or that you somehow haven't fully embraced your divine feminine unless you have founded a Fortune 500 company on your own and at the same time have raised your kids on your own and at the same time have made sure that everyone at home has fresh squeezed organic green juices every day. And there's this sense now with women. It's the exact opposite end of the spectrum of the barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. It has to be everything. It has to be bigger. It has to be more. And that's not a feminine model. It's women being indoctrinated in many ways to a masculine model because that's the model that tends to be a model of marketing. I won't go into too much of that, but in any case, we've bought into it. And so women, as wagers of peace where we began, for women, it tends to be horizontal. For women, the connection is horizontal. And as we connect outward, that's the peace that we are able to bring. If we are trying to get ahead by stepping on other women's or other men's head, neck, and shoulders and pushing other women and men out of the way, not only are we not going to wage peace, but we're also not going to be able to be connected deeply within to that true divine feminine within ourselves. And so we need to connect with that within us, which is that peace. And sometimes peace is fiery. Peace isn't always just, oh yeah, isn't that nice? Sometimes it's fiery. The elements of the divine feminine, when we talk about Kali or we talk about Durga, well, they're no less peaceful, they're no less loving, no less feminine. But sometimes there has to be a clearing away of the old in order to make room for the new. If you're going to create, well, there has to be a clearing away of that which is preventing the creation. So those elements are there as well. But our connection to that and then out horizontally, that's what keeps us upright and connected and strong and nourished such that we can nourish and nurtured such that we can nurture.
I want to pick up a thread from what you just said and ask for your personal balance between your sadhana, like your self-care, your internal connection, and your direct action of service.
For me, it's really important to not see them as separate. So they are separate in specific time, like taking a shower and brushing your teeth are separate. But they're both part of what you could call personal hygiene, the brushing your teeth and taking a shower. And for me, the sadhana that I do in the darkness of my room, sitting on a blanket with my legs crossed, is separate in place, in time, in structure from the service. But it's not separate in my mind as an activity. It's not separate as in goals or purpose or reason. That which I do sitting in my room forms the me that goes out and serves. They're deeply interlinked. I couldn't do what I do in the world if I didn't do what I do sitting in my room. And when I do the seated practice in my room, it leads automatically to that which I do in the world. So Pujya Swamiji speaks about the personal practice as charging your batteries. And so we all need to just kind of plug back in and get a recharge. But the good news is that as time goes on, that recharge happens compared to your phone battery, which gets worse and worse as time goes on, and it takes longer to charge it and the battery dies faster. In life, it's actually the opposite. And so the charge happens faster, takes less time, and it dissipates less soon. And so the example that Pujya Swamiji shares about that is when you are building a new house. It takes a long time to lay all of the electrical lines. Lots of planning, lots of energy, lots of time. But once those lines are in place, when you want to run your light or your blender or your computer, whatever you want to do, you actually just have to stick it in the wall and it's on. You don't have to rewire the house every day. And so the seated practice for me is really a battery charging, a reminding myself that I am not the doer. Otherwise you get into doership. It's I've got to do this. I am doing this. My to-do list, which I have for sure. I mean, I would never get anything done if I didn't have lists and lists. But the awareness that comes from the seated practice is a very, very deep awareness that stays with me of I'm not the doer. It's not up to me. It's not about me. It's not for me. It's not by me. I'm a tool. And so that's what the practice gives. And the practice gives the experience of the truth of who I am and who I am in the universe and what the universe is, such that when I stand up, there's such an experience of connection to the world, such an experience of life and energy from the world, that all I want to do is serve. And so all of the service stems out of that.
You're here by one of the great rivers on earth. And here in India, we revere that river as a living entity, as a consciousness, and as a teacher. And would love to know how Ganga inspires your service and how that flows through, how the river, consciousness of the river flows through your life.
Well, I have a very personal relationship with Ganga, because Ganga is what grabbed me. Ganga is both the the actual molecules of water and the goddess of Ganga are what grabbed me when I first came. I'd been in Rishikesh not even an hour and went down to what I thought was just the river to put my feet in. And that was the grace of Ganga. And I had such an experience of opening and awakening and truth that it transformed me instantaneously. And so my relationship with Ganga is very deep, very special. There's an experience all the time of coming home to the mother. And then there's there's that aspect of living on the banks of the mother, who's always there, flowing, 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 and just really, really experiencing the Divine Mother in that. I mean, for me, the most powerful place I've ever been is Gomok, the source of Ganga. And you literally feel like you are in the womb. I mean, like you've crawled back into the womb, but not the womb you came out of. Not the womb that you had to squeeze your way through and it was, but the ever expanding light womb of the Divine Mother. And so that in and of itself is deeply inspiring, to just be every day infused with that presence. And then, of course, there's the specific inspiration, which, as Puja Swamiji says so beautifully, Ganga serves and serves and serves, flows and flows and flows, with no hesitation, no discrimination, no vacation, and no expectation. And that's how we should serve. For us, there's an expectation. I'm going to do something for you, and then you will do something for me. Or at the bare minimum, you will thank me, you will love me, you will appreciate me. Ganga doesn't serve with any of that. She flows for those of us who perform her arati, and she flows for those who dump their trash in her. No expectation, no hesitation. She never wakes up one day and says, "Oh, not today, I don't feel like it." No vacation and no discrimination. So she flows and irrigates the farms of Hindus and Muslims, Jews and Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, atheists, the fair, the dark, the rich, the poor, everyone. And if we could just take that teaching of how to serve without the discrimination, without the hesitation, without the expectation. Okay, I'm not against vacations, but at least if, I mean, it's an incredible inspiration that she serves like that. But I'm not gonna go publicly and say thou shalt not take a vacation. But at least if we could have those three, if we could just serve, just give, as Ganga gives. What an incredible place the world would be.
Thank you, Sādhvi.
Of course.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.